Thank you, guys. I'd like to say they saved the best for last, but who am I to judge? But if you guys think so, please feel free to express it at the end of the talk. I want to thank OMC for giving me an opportunity of a lifetime. Oops, this is not the opportunity of a lifetime. This is not my talk, sorry. Okay, let's start again. So thank you for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to tick one thing off my bucket list. Speaking at TED is really an honor, and when you get to my stage in life, you really want to start ticking things off because there isn't much time left. So, being a typical nerd, how did I prepare for this presentation? So, grab a book with the big letters TED and start reading and prepare for the presentation like any good medical student would do. The issue is, after 3 pages in the book, I realized, wait a minute, I'm a surgeon. I don't know how to read. Isn't that what they say? Anyway, well, I used Dr. Hani, my friend's motto in life. Why read a book when you can actually see the movie? So I went online and I actually checked TED Talks and I looked at it and I said, yeah, I think I can do it. I don't think that's bad. So let me just give you all a few snaps on my life. But before I start, I have to tell you, it's not pretty. You might not like it. Those of you with medical conditions might be better if they left. Children underage that have been sneaked in by their parents might want to be escorted out. And definitely, if you're thinking about a career in dermatology, this talk is not for you. Okay, so a disclaimer before I start is I'll be using pictures of my kids representing my childhood. I think they look cuter than I did. And contrary to what they think, cameras did exist when I was a child. It's just I chose not to use them. So why did I decide to become a doctor? Well, you might find it difficult looking at me, this perfect specimen in front of you, to believe that I was actually a very sick kid. I was born prematurely. My mother had to have a cesarean section for me to be extracted, and it wasn't because I was 6'3" again. Yeah. Even later in life, as a child, I was sick a lot. I don't know what was wrong with me. I just know that I was always in the hospitals. Now, this picture is a recent picture of another hospital. It looks really pretty like this. I don't remember this hospital this way when I was a child. There are certain memories, smells, voices that have been burned into my mind. And whenever I kind of smell that antiseptic smell, it drives me really back into my childhood. One of the things I remember is the nurses looked like this. The IV bottles were actual bottles. They were glass bottles. They were not plastic. And I actually remember a nurse telling my mom, you got to watch this IV because if it runs out and you don't call us, air might go in and your kid might die. Of course, that meant that I was constantly looking at the bottle. Another thing I remember about that hospital is I met the person who changed my life. Funny enough, he was a pediatrician. So I see this guy showing up, not your usual doctor, doesn't wear a white coat, he's in jeans and t-shirt. He examines me, turns around, opens a huge book, something like out of Harry Potter that you would see. Reads in it a bit, then turns back to me and starts prescribing medications for me. And even at that age, I was like, what kind of person is this? Is he learning as he's checking me out? Well, later as I got to know him, he was the most empathetic, compassionate person I met. He has not only affected my life, he has affected each one of you sitting in this room. You just don't know it. This person was the late Professor Musallam al-Buali. Your existence in this room, for the grace of God, you do owe a debt to this person. He's the one who made the mandatory immunization program necessary. He's the one who made exclusive breastfeeding an actual program and kicked out pharmaceutical representatives who were trying to sell formula in the hospital. He single-handedly reduced the infant mortality rate. So he has not only affected me, he has affected you too. The sad thing is, when I tried to prepare this presentation and look for an image of him in Google, I couldn't find one. But even though he's not on Google, he's definitely in my heart. So even as a young person, I already knew, that's it. I want to be a doctor, and some kind of doctor. The question is, what kind of doctor? Picture looks cute, doesn't it? The story is not. Okay, as young Omani males, we get introduced to surgery pretty early on in life, during Eid. And you know, modern parenting will tell you, don't expose your kids to the actual image of a slaughtering of a goat. That's so traumatic, it's so scarring. Obviously, they had not met me. I still remember the first goat being slaughtered and his organs being removed, and I knew that my life had changed forever. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. The question was, do I want to be a butcher or do I want to be a surgeon? Spoke to some family members. They said there wasn't much of a difference, but maybe you want to go to med school. So I already knew at that age that I wanted to be a surgeon. Now the question is, what kind of surgeon? This lovely couple that you see here are my grandparents. They raised me since I was born up to the age of 6 because I was the first grandchild and they couldn't trust my parents with my care. And then when it was time to go to school, they handed me over, but they were always my parents, not just my grandparents. What I love about this picture is that for you young kids who think that you have discovered something new about Instagram and you kind of casually slip a handbag or a fancy watch thinking that nobody has noticed it in your picture, you know, is a new thing. This picture was taken in the 50s, and I love how my grandfather casually parked his car behind in the picture. I want to speak a little bit about my grandmother. She was the kindest person I've known. And yes, I know I'm biased. She's my grandmother. But others do attest to the same thing. She's a survivor. She survived 4 heart attacks and a major coronary artery bypass surgery. It was risky. She had to go to Houston, have it done. Her 4th heart attack happened when I was waiting for my Thanawi Amma results. She was on a vacation in Egypt. She got the heart attack there. We thought she'd die. I flew to Egypt as soon as the exams were done. And I remember I was standing outside the coronary care unit when I got my results faxed to the Omani embassy. And I knew that I was going to make it to medical school most likely. She made it. She survived the heart attack. She got to see me enter the College of Medicine like we had agreed. And unfortunately, in my first year in the College of Medicine, as she was being driven back by my grandfather from Abu Dhabi, they had a major motor vehicle collision. She passed away in Al Buraimi Hospital, and it was a shock to everyone. You know, we expected her to die 4 different times. Yet it was so violent, so sudden, that made me think that, no, you know, we all have to go somehow, but I don't think being taken away by something that is so avoidable is acceptable. So I decided to do trauma surgery early on in the College of Medicine. The question is trying to explain to people, what does a trauma surgeon do? So I tell them, well, I deal with people who have collisions, you know, are involved in quote-unquote accidents. And they're like, so you fix bones? And I said, no. So do you fix head injuries? Said, well, not really. So they're like, so what do you do? So when I was in medical school, ER was the popular medical show. I don't know if some of you have seen it or not. But I found it easy just to tell them, you know, this guy, this is the guy that I want to be. And not only did I want to do what he did on the show, I even had the mustache and the look, you know. So they got it. For the young people in the audience here who don't know what ER or who Peter Benton is, let me bring something closer to you. Yeah, you know this. Okay, so they had McDreamy, they had McSteamy, but they never gave a nickname to the red-headed guy who actually saved lives. And to me, that's the person I want to be, and I call him Dr. McBadass. The issue is, some of you look at these shows and like, really, is surgery that cool? Oh, it's cool. But the best definition of what a trauma surgeon does was actually given to me by a trauma surgeon I worked with in McGill. And he said, Abdullah, the hospital is like an aircraft carrier. It's big, has lots of different people on it. You know, you have your internist. Yeah. You have also your family medicine physicians. But when things are rough and chaotic, and it seems like it's falling apart, a small select group of people are called to get the mission done. And that's what trauma surgeons are. So we appreciate all the contributions by our colleagues, but we're there when we're needed. I don't have an ego problem. Okay. As Dr. Hani explained to you, we trained hard, and we learned how to treat patients, and with the grace of God, to try to save lives. The only thing was, as a doctor, you can only save one patient at a time. So you got to think bigger. Once you've established your skills, the question is, how do I have a bigger effect? And that's when systems come in place. And we established the systems, but I thought, okay, well, we did well with surgery and with trauma. Let's try to do something bigger. Let's try to move this hospital bigger. So I decided to throw my turban into the ring of the administration. It sounded like a great idea at the time, but the next video will illustrate my life in administration.
Whoa, that's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, there's not enough left to do. That's it.
Okay, and then I decided to come and save the day.
Hello? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in a second.
That's me.
He said he can fix it. All right.
See how happy they are?
That's more like it. He says he can fix it.
Yeah.
Walking down the sidewalk, kicking my feet as I'm moving to the music. Step to the beat. I woke up today, canceled all my plans, and I stepped right outside with my guitar in my hands, and the notes became aloud as the sound.
What do you think they should do? Just get off the escalator. Well, you know, you learn from everything. You learn from your successes, and you learn also when you're not that successful in getting at least what you had imagined in the beginning where you should go. What did I learn from my experience in administration? Well, I learned a couple of things. One is actually the difference between a manager and a leader. A manager is somebody who makes sure things are done the right way. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, as long as he follows protocol and things are done the right way. A leader is somebody who makes sure the right thing is done. Unfortunately, the expectation was for me to be a manager. Now, the question that you have to ask yourself in any position is, what is the positive value that you're adding in that position? If you can figure it out, great, you're adding something positive. If not, maybe that place is not the place for you. So then I remembered the saying, knowing when to walk away is wisdom. Actually doing it is courage. Walking away with your head held high is dignity. So I decided to walk away. Don't want to leave you with a depressing part, especially that the weekend's coming. So let me add the part of what is happiness. What's happiness to you? Well, you know the saying, money can't buy happiness? I can't believe that. However, it is true that the more money you have, happiness does increase. And studies were done about that. The issue is how much money. And after a specific amount of money, it plateaus. It's just numbers in the bank account. You can only eat same number of meals a day. You can only wear one pants at a time. You can't vacation in 2 different places at the same time. I tried, didn't work. So what are the things that are the components of happiness? Well, from what's been looked at, one is your health. It's very difficult to be happy if you're not healthy. And speaking as somebody who was sick as a kid, I appreciate health much more. However, doctors are the worst people to take care of themselves. We're good at giving advice. Oh, sleep, exercise, eat well, don't stress yourself. So let's look at what we do. We don't sleep. We don't eat well. We don't exercise. We're stressed all the time. So that's wrong. You gotta live by your own words. And it's not only the physical well-being, but the emotional is quite important. This is me meditating, thinking about the next news that the residents are gonna bring to me. Also, it's important to get rest wherever you might get it, even if it's in an MRI machine while you're waiting for your next patient to come. Next component of happiness is your relationships. And it's not your relationships as what people see it. It's your relationships as defined by you. How many times have we seen 2 people walk together and we're like, what do they see in each other? How many times did your friends come and tell you, listen, don't go with this person. He's just so wrong for you. Yeah? The issue is you decide what are the relationships that are good for you. And the good relationships are the ones that build you up, not tear you down. I've been very lucky to achieve what I've achieved because I've had the right people around me. Not only can we learn from people who are older than us or our age, but we get a lot from those who are younger than us. Our medical students, our residents are like our children. They're our family. And we live vicariously through them. Their successes are our successes. Even when they actually Snapchat me without me knowing, and they write mean stuff about me, thinking that I won't know it, I do know everything. In addition to your colleagues and your friends, don't forget your loved ones. Can't tell you how many birthday pictures I have with my daughter wearing scrubs. She actually thinks that is my usual outfit. And we can tend to kind of judge ourselves harshly that we don't spend enough time with our family. But it's not a question of amount of time. It's the quality of time that does make a difference. This is what they will remember. Not that you were sitting in front of the TV, but you were, quote unquote, around. The last thing that really does bring happiness is achieving your purpose in life. The question is, why am I doing what I'm doing? The people here in this audience should consider themselves very lucky. The majority of the people living on this planet don't get to choose what they do. They're just born into it. They're forced into it. You made a conscious decision of the person you want to be because of something. So make sure that you don't lose sight of why you're doing what you're doing. Many on-calls, sleepless nights can turn us into different people than we thought we would be. That's because we lose sight of why we're doing what we're doing. I told you why I joined trauma surgery, and that became very clear to me that it was the right choice when, at one time, my daughter decided to do a backflip in a pool and hit her head on the edge of the pool. Started bleeding. Now, I've seen a lot of bleeding patients. Doesn't discourage me at all. However, when you see your own child bleeding in front of you, it's something very different. I was very fortunate that I took her to my hospital, to our emergency department, to be treated by my colleagues, that some of them I have single-handedly trained with my other team members, and they did everything by the book. I was never more sure that I had made the right decisions than that day. We've spoken a lot, previous speakers and me. We're telling you how we got where we are. The idea is it's like a finger pointing to the moon. We're just trying to show you the way. You have to decide why you're doing or why you're picking what you want to pick. And as they say, when you see a finger pointing to the moon, concentrate on the moon, not on the finger. Thank you very much.